All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving into one of the oldest and, honestly, one of the most terrifying diseases known to humanity. We're talking about rabies. I mean, think about it. What kind of virus has been haunting us for literally 4,000 years? This thing is the stuff of nightmares. It shows up in some of our oldest written records, and it's terrified everyone, from ancient civilizations right up to people in cities today. And the culprit? A virus that is just relentless and scarily efficient. But here is where it gets kinda crazy. This is a virus that is 100% preventable. Seriously, with the medicines have today, the vaccines, the treatments, nobody should ever die from this. We literally have everything we need to stop it cold. And yet, it's also nearly 100% fatal once you see the first symptom. That's the terrifying part. If you miss that window to act, if the virus gets a foothold, the outcome is pretty much a certainty. It's one of the deadliest things out there. So yeah, this is the story of rabies. So here's what we're going to do. First, we'll look at its legendary ancient history. Then we'll meet the killer itself, this bullet-shaped virus. We'll follow its invasion through the nervous system, talk about the race against time to treat it, and finally, face the preventable tragedy that's still happening today. Okay, first up, a virus of legend. To really get a handle on rabies, you have to go back in time. I mean, way back. This isn't some new virus that just popped up. Nope, it's an ancient enemy, and it's woven deep into our language and our oldest stories. Just look at the name itself. It tells you so much. The word rabies actually comes from the Sanskrit rabos, which means to do violence. How fitting is that? It perfectly captures what the disease does. You know, back in ancient Mesopotamia, they thought rabid dogs were actual demons, a sign that the gods were furious. And this fight has been going on for a long time. You can see traces of it all through history. Way back around 2150 BCE, the Epic of Gilgamesh mentions gods with dogs, so we know they were a big part of society even then. Fast forward to 600 BCE, and you've got ancient Indian texts describing hydrophobia, that classic fear of water, and they knew it was a death sentence. For thousands of years, that was it. No hope. Until 1885. That's when Louis Pasteur comes along and develops the first rabies vaccine, and that changed everything. So, what exactly is this thing we've been fighting for millennia? Let's zoom in from the history books to the microscope and take a look at the bullet-shaped killer itself. Okay, meet the rabies virus. Its scientific name, rabies lyssavirus, is like a little horror story. It's in the Rhabdiviridae family that comes from the Greek for rod, which makes sense because it's got this weirdly distinct bullet shape. Then its genus is lyssavirus, from the Greek word for rage. See, it literally means rage virus. And it's what we call neurotropic, which is just a sciencey way of saying it absolutely loves nerve cells. And once it gets into the nervous system, it causes this catastrophic inflammation of the brain and spinal cord called encephalomyelitis. So how do you get it? Well, it's all about the saliva. The number one way, by far, we're talking over 99% of human cases, is from the bite of an infected dog. But there are a few other much rarer ways it can happen, like a scratch that gets saliva in it, or if infected saliva splashes into your eyes or mouth. And then there's the really wild one. You could potentially inhale it if you're in a cave just packed with millions of infected bats. There have even been a few tragic cases where it was passed through an organ transplant. All right. Now for the really scary part, the invasion of the nerves. Once that virus gets inside your body, a silent, deadly clock starts ticking. It doesn't just go wild all at once. No, it's sneaky. It creeps, it hides, and it follows a very specific, very sinister path. So let's trace the path. After a bite, the virus first gets into your muscle tissue. And for a while, weeks, sometimes even months, it just hangs out there, quietly making copies of itself. This is the incubation period. Then it makes its move. It jumps into the nearby nerves. From there, it starts this slow, steady climb up your nervous system, heading for the main prize, the spinal cord and then the brain. And once it gets there, it's basically game over. The virus goes into overdrive, replicating like crazy and taking over everything. And here's the final evil genius part. It then travels back out from the brain, invading organs, and, crucially, the salivary glands. Why? So it can be in the perfect position to infect the next victim. So yeah, the moment that virus hits the brain, the clock runs out. But until that happens, there's this critical window.
It's literally a race against time between the virus creeping up the nerves and our ability to stop it.
And when the symptoms finally show up, rabies can have two very different faces. About 80% of the time, you get what's called furious rabies. This is the one you see in the movies. Agitation, aggression, hallucinations, and that infamous hydrophobia, that fear of water, which is caused by these excruciating spasms in your throat when you try to swallow. But then there's the other 20%, paralytic rabies. This one is way quieter, almost sneaky. It starts with muscle weakness near the bite, which then just spreads, leading to total paralysis. The scary thing is, it's often misdiagnosed, which is just tragic because time is everything.
And that is why something called post-exposure prophylaxis, or PEP for short, is absolutely critical. And get this, PEP isn't a cure for rabies. It's a treatment for the exposure to rabies. The whole idea is to kickstart your immune system to build an army of antibodies that can hunt down and destroy the virus while it's still making that slow climb to the brain. You have to win the race.
So what does this life-saving treatment involve? Well, there are three absolutely crucial steps. First, and you have to do this immediately, wash the wound. And I mean really wash it, with soap and water for a good 15 minutes. That alone can get rid of a ton of the virus. Second, you get a shot of something called Rabies immune globulin right in and around the wound. Think of these as pre-made antibodies that give you immediate protection. And third, you start a series of vaccine shots. These teach your own body how to make its own long-term defense. You need all three to have a fighting chance. So, okay, we know how to stop the virus after a bite. The next logical question is, how do we stop the bites from happening to begin with? It turns out this is the preventable part of the tragedy. And guess what? We know exactly how to do that too.
And it all comes down to this one number, 70%. That's it. If you can vaccinate 70% of the dogs in any given area, the virus just runs out of places to go. You break the chain of transmission. And just like that, the disease is gone from that area. It's that simple.
And we're not just guessing here. We know this works. Just look at the success story in the Americas. They ran these huge coordinated dog vaccination campaigns, and the results were just staggering. A 98% drop in rabies in dogs, and a 95% drop in human deaths from rabies. It's the ultimate proof that wiping this disease out isn't some fantasy. It's totally achievable.
And yet, despite all that, here's the brutal reality we live in. 59,000 people. That's how many are estimated to die from rabies every single year, primarily in Africa and Asia. That works out to one person, very often a child, dying every 9 minutes from a disease we know exactly how to prevent. Which leaves us with one last, really haunting question. With all the tools we have to eliminate rabies, why are 59,000 people still dying every year? We have the science, we have the vaccines, we have the strategy. The tragedy of rabies today isn't a failure of medicine. It's a failure to get that medicine and that strategy to the people who need it. It's a failure of access, of cost, of commitment. It's a preventable tragedy that just keeps unfolding, day after day.